Hi YouTube. I'm going to assume that I'm live and that my audio is working as it should. Alright, I want to show you something that is going to be very important for doing research going forward. Everyone's been talking about ChatGPT recently. It is a very, very powerful tool, but those of you who've been with me for a while know that I've got a huge archive. I've got about 20 gigabytes worth of files, about 1,500 or more documents that I use professional software, which I pay because I've been sponsored by my audience to buy a license for this software, and I can use it to index these files, and I can use it to search through these files. It's still a difficult, everyone. It's still a lengthy process. This is very much off the cuff. But I do want to show you guys something that I think is going to make a massive difference. Okay, so I want to introduce you to a tool called PDF GPT. Right, let's go have a look at PDF GPT. This is online, so Dragon, welcome. Thanks, so good to see you, Latea. Welcome, and I of Sergeant Grinch. Hey, first one in, well done. Okay, so yeah, by the way, I will be streaming tomorrow with Chris. I have a sore throat at the moment, so I just need an extra day for my throat to sort itself out. But, okay, PDF GPT. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take the Apology of Al-Kindi. This is this book here. The Apology of Al-Kindi. Now, what I normally use is, as you guys know, who've been with me for a while, so I can have a look at this, and I can say Kindi, type this into this is Copernic desktop search, okay, the Apology of Al-Kindi. So we can find out about this book here, and I can look through the book for various sources. I can say, I'll type in Islam here, and it's going to start looking for Islam. There it is. So this allows me to search for, you can see here, it is finding the references to Islam, okay. If I want to look up Eusebius, for instance, I'll type Eusebius in here. Okay, so I'm going to tell this thing to search only on the files that are on my hard drive. These files are backed up in 6 different locations, as you all know. Okay, so Eusebius. So this book is exposing this about Christianity, and it's going to bring up the first reference to Eusebius. He was Constantine's biographer. Excellent. There's a quote from him, and let's see if there's additional references from him. Okay, Eusebius, page 116. Okay, so there's not much about Eusebius. Let's have a look at the second reference. Okay, Nick Spencer, atheists, and here we go. Okay, reference to Eusebius, the death of martyrs, whose blood was supposed to be the seed of the church. Eusebius, early church historian, showed that only 9 bishops were punished. Okay, fine. Useful tool. I use this all the time. Now, I want to... Yeshua's Yahweh, hey, welcome. Now I want to show you guys something else. So I've been using this to cross-reference, to take details. Very useful tool. Not the best, but still very useful. Let's have a look at this. I'm going to import this book, The Apology of Al-Kindi, into PDF GPT. I'm going to drop it in here. It is now, you can see here, it is now currently indexing this file. Okay, it says processing done. You can now do Q&A with the chatbot. So now I am linked to ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo. Okay, so Latea says, sometimes I look at channels with Muslims doing dawah, usually it's them attacking Christianity, but even Christians are falling for it. Poor education. I mean, lack of confidence in the Christian faith. Poor education and undermining our society. Hey, Noah, welcome. So, okay, so now what I've done is, so this Apology of Al-Kindi, how many pages is this? Let's have a quick look. Okay, well, can't see it there. So, Apology of Al-Kindi, 121 pages. So now, it says here, hey there, you uploaded the Apology of Al-Kindi. Okay, this book is an apology written by Al-Kindi in the 3rd century. So this tool is giving me a summary of what the book is about. In the 3rd century of the Hijrah, defending Christianity against Islam, the apology is quoted by well-known writer Al-Biruni, and so on. The apology is a deep interest for ourselves in Christendom. And now it says, you can now ask it questions. Who printed the text of the Apology of Al-Kindi from the 2 imperfect manuscripts? What is the practical bearing of it? What is the apology quote? Okay, let's take the second question. So it's given us some sample questions. I'm just going to drop these in here. I'm going to click here. ChatGPT is now going to go through the book, and it's going to give us an answer. Okay, now it's creating this answer. The Apology of Al-Kindi, an ancient and indigenous product of Asiatic Christianity. Okay, so give me a 50-word summary. Give me a 50-word summary of the book. Okay, give me a 50-word summary of the book. And here we go. Here's my little short summary. Notice in this one, these are the references. It used page 6 to take some of that data that it printed out, page number 3. You'll see page 113 here, and of course, finally, page 14. So it used that, okay? What year did he live? Okay, what year did he live? So, according to historians, cited by blah, blah, blah. So it gives us a little bit more detail. Now, the better questions you ask, the better answers it gives. Okay. What was the weakest? Okay, I'm going to ask, what was the single weakest argument against Islam that he presented? Let's have a look. What was the weakest argument against Islam presented by Al-Kindi was that the laws and the Jews and Bedouins superficially converted to Islam for sordid and worldly motives such as fear, power, wealth. The argument was weak because it did not provide any evidence to support the claim that all conversions to Islam were insincere and motivated by worldly gains. Okay, that's great. What was the strongest argument against Islam he presented? So now it tells us the strongest argument against Islam is that miracles only needed in the first blah blah blah. Okay? What was the major weakness in Islamic theology he identified? ChatGPT will be fine with typos, so if you make typos, that's okay. Right. So now it's giving me answers. So it has indexed this book. It's now become an expert on this book. Okay. So it's able to answer questions, and the better the questions you ask, I was playing with it today, the better questions you ask, the better the answers become. So you can learn to say, give me a bullet point, give me bullet points of the worst Islamic polemics he identified. Give me bullet points of the worst Islamic polemics he identified. The worst Islamic polemics identified include Christian renegades use their profession to lord it over innocent and faithful brethren, blah, blah. The hypocritical and blasphemous liars. Okay, see, so it's able to give us bullet points. It can make little tables. It can do all sorts of fun things. You cannot question the Abduls. I question them all the time. This tool is called PDF GPT. Okay, so you need to go to pdfgpt.io. pdfgpt.io. Okay, so now we can go to the site again, try a different book for argument's sake. Okay, so I'm going to take here the Genesis of, I'm just grabbing random books. The Genesis of Science, How the Christian Middle Ages Launched the Scientific Revolution by James Hannam. It's now busy processing. Okay, I'm going to go back to Al-Kindi. So what is the major conclusion of his book? What is the major conclusion of his book? And it tells us the major conclusion is that miracles were only necessary in the early days of spreading the faith among idolatrous and ignorant nations that mankind is now left as. Okay, so can this tool assess the validity of the information? I don't think so. It's specific to the book. I don't think it's connected to the internet. Okay, what does the book say about Saracens? What does the book say about Saracens? Let's see. The book mentions Saracens in passing, so it's able to index the book, tell you information about the book. Okay, so this might be very, very useful. Hi, Anela, Ibn Abbas, Your Highness, welcome. Okay, so let me just see if I've missed anything. Check in the messages. So have I missed anything? I have a question, Dragon. So did you see my statement? Okay, so any questions from you guys? So what's important here? Now, for instance, I've gone and I've indexed. Oh, this is huge. So unfortunately, let me just close this. Yeah, I've got too many windows open. I'm going to have to close one. Okay, I'm going to close this one. Okay, so for instance, I've taken here the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible, the oldest known Bible translated for the first time into English. Right? All of this material is available. Oh, is it really accurate? Ibn Abbas, I've only been testing it for a day or so. So, you know, It's been pretty good. I fed it 400 and odd page books. I've given it technical manuals. I've given it textbooks, and I've told it which compare these two devices, these two machines with each other. What's the weight limits on this machine? What's the processing power? It's actually pretty good. PDF GPT. I'm getting different things from my. So is there a direct link? Here we go. I showed you guys. There, I've just listed it twice. And look, also, please don't use DuckDuckGo. It's not as secure as you think. It's not as private as you think. It's not as good as you think. So, yeah. Now, okay, so that's PDF GPT. Now, for instance, I loaded this and it says, okay, this is the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible, the oldest known Bible, translated for the first time into English. It contains the oldest known Bible translated. What is the Dead Sea Scroll Bible and why is it significant? So it gives us some sample questions. Okay. So I said, what is the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible? And it gives me this, and you can just copy the answer by clicking here to paste it. All right. So what does the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible contain and what makes it different from other translations of the Bible? Here's my answer. Name 3 significant differences of the Qumran text versus the modern Bible text. So it's given me 1, 2, and 3 bullet points here. It tells us popular books among the Qumran community were the Psalms, Deuteronomy, and Isaiah, right? As indicated by the number of manuscripts found. Inclusion of the book of Daniel among the prophets. The book of Daniel was included among the prophets and not among the writings at Qumran, as seen in the quotation of Daniel 12:10 is from the book of Daniel the prophet in the Florilegium. So it's giving us some little differences. I've asked it questions like, how does Deuteronomy differ in these texts? I asked it, how does this contradict anything in the Bible or just add to our understanding? And it says it adds to our understanding. Mel Donnelly, welcome. So, yeah, in this case, though, Your Highness, this tool is dedicated to this one book. So that it's got a limit of 1,000 pages. Okay, so you can always join multiple PDFs together to make more than one book of under 1,000 pages and have it search through that, right? So now you're going to need an API key. Now for my channel subscribers, I've actually given them an API key. So if you sign up if you go to OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, if you go to their website and you make an account, they will give you 90 days worth of free access, effectively $18 worth of free credit. So I'm going to go to my account, go to manage my account, and you can see my usage. This is today's usage. I have spent today $1.60 playing with this. Okay, cumulative. So I've used $2.30. Okay, so total. So I happen to have $18 of credit, which expires on May 1st. So for the members on my channel, I've given them access by creating an API key. So I've given them this API key here to use the tool at my expense if they don't want to create an account. All right. So there is an article I wrote in my community page. So sounds like a great tool to mine information from books. Ibn Abbas, yes, it is. It's fantastic. As I said, I used technical manuals on it. I threw in PowerShell for Windows. I tossed in a whole bunch of product manuals. I said, hey, compare these two products. What's different? So I have a question. Can it fish out further reading from the notes? So the question would be, what books would tell me more about? So yes, I believe it does. I did use it. So for instance, you know, so it can go into the footnotes. So this today I was playing with it, and I went into the footnotes, and and it told me, well, if you want to know more, check this footnote, check footnote number 42, check footnote number 37 for more information. So so it tells you within the footnotes, okay, which is the most detailed footnote. Well, ask it, which is the most detailed footnote? The most detailed footnote in the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible is the one that lists alternative readings found in the scrolls, the Masoretic text. Okay. Okay, let me ask it, which page is the most detailed footnote on? Page 1. There we go, the most detailed footnote. Okay, so as I said, you're going to need so you can go to the OpenAI website. You can make a new API key. When you connect to PDF when you connect to PDF GPT, right, when you open the website, when you drag your file on, it's going to ask you for an API key. As I said, for the people who join my channel, I've given them mine. So I happen to have, I've used $5.37 out of my $18. So go wild until this runs out. Okay. So free, well, just go freely use it. And yeah, otherwise make an account. We'll give you free credit. Play with this. Okay, so die man is bezig om Islam dood te maak. Ja nee, baie dood. So do you think they will use this one the whole? Of course they will. I mean, someone's going to use it. Just you have to be there first and do it better. Okay? So you're going to need an API key. So you would simply go manage account. Okay? You can see this is the amounts here, and then of course view API keys. These are my API keys. And so just set up an account. It's free for 3 months. There's going to be no charge unless you want to pay. Okay. I think I've given them $5. So just as a backup, so if my $18 runs out, I've added $5 credit. I will add more. I can see myself using this. So let me close that. So this, let me go back here. I'm going to try a different book. Does anyone have a suggestion? Otherwise, I'm going to go, let me see. Athanasius, I don't know, whatever. Just grabbing books at random. Athanasius, the early church fathers, okay? So it's busy indexing Athanasius right here. So for instance, I threw Shoemaker's book, Creating the Quran at it. Okay, 450 pages, dropped it in there and interrogated the book and got some really good answers out. Okay, who was Athanasius and what was his role in 4th century church? Okay, that's a great question. So let's take it. Who was he? An Egyptian bishop of the 4th century AD who played a crucial role. So it is now interrogating this book, giving us these detailed answers. Okay, what are the references? Well, on page 2, okay, page 243. Okay, what was his, uh, what did he say about Gnosticism? Let's see. Okay, the text does not provide, okay, what does he write about heresy? In the text provided, the author writes about heresy and specifically addresses the Arian heresy. Okay, what is the major argument he makes against Arius that defeated it? Okay, Athanasius' major argument against Arius was that denying the full divinity of Christ would make the Christian submission to the sovereignty and adoration of Christ mere idolatry, and humanity would still be alienated from God. Athanasius believed that the absolute lordship of Christ is an implicit epistemological principle for Christian reflection and foundational. So that is pretty brilliant, these kinds of answers. So any comments or thoughts from you guys on this? Oh, by the way, I mean, here we've got this Bible. Now, earlier I loaded a much larger Bible, which is slowing my computer down, but by the way, I had to reinstall my computer so, because of what happened before. Okay, so on that point, you know, what does, let's see, what does the Bible say about atonement in the Old Testament book of, okay, so I don't know, I'm just making up a question. This is random. Okay, so this is just me randomly. What does the Bible say about the atonement in the Old Testament book of Deuteronomy? Okay, there we go. Deuteronomy discusses atonement in various contexts. In this, the Israelites expressed their fear of God's voice. In Deuteronomy 13 to 19, the Israelites were warned against following false prophets. So yeah, Yeshua's Yahweh, did I answer your question? So, I mean, this is brilliant if you want to now get these answers. So hit settings and hit settings and change what in advanced. The Templars and Shroud of Turin. Okay, let me see if I have a copy of that book. Okay, so someone mentioned the Templars and the Shroud of Turin. To be honest, that's starting to worry me. It sounds a little bit like typical conspiracy theorizing, but okay. Okay, I'm just gonna look up here. Don't have that one. Okay, don't have that one. Okay, so who's got a question about the Bible? I mean, this is now the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible, right? Does anyone have a question I can ask this thing? Does it recognize other languages? Only look at whatever language you throw at it. ChatGPT speaks a bunch of languages, right? I speak English as my primary language, so yes, obviously English. Paste the Quran and see the truth coming out. I wonder. So, does anyone have any questions I could ask the Bible? I mean, who's got a typical question? Like maybe there's a polemic or an apologetic that you want to ask about, to see how powerful this is or what it can do. Do you think, any questions from you guys? This is a game changer. Lots of information will be uncovered and a lot for more interesting discussions. Yes, Alpha, and I agree. It's by renowned Vatican, but no need to worry. No, it's fine. I mean, look, I think the Shroud of Turin is genuine, in case anyone wondered. Why did Jesus die? That's a very good question. Thank you for that. Why did Jesus die? Okay, let's ask it. Why did Jesus die? Okay, Jesus died because of the sins of humanity. According to the text provided, the Israelites were warned not to disobey God's commandment, but they still sinned. The prophets and priests shed the blood of the just in their midst, and the people did not honor them. The punishment of their iniquity was accomplished, and they were exiled. In the New Testament, Jesus died on the cross to pay the penalty for the sins of. Okay, so I should say that it is when you go to. Let me go back to. So I'm going to platform.openai.com. Okay, it's called platform. This is not ChatGPT, right? When you go here to the playground, the standard setting for the response is 256 characters, which is why this response cut off after this. This is one of the reasons why. Okay. When I play with this manually, I can make this go up to 4,000 characters, but there's no way for me here within the software to tell it to allow for longer answers. Okay, so let's ask the second question. Where in the Old Testament is the eyes being the windows to the soul? Okay, great question. Okay, I'm gonna ask it again. Looks like it's having a problem. Okay, so maybe I've run short. Who knows? Okay, so let me see. Not sure why it's not answering, but it's giving me blank answers here. Okay, let me try this again. So I'm going to go back to Bibles. Let me see the oldest known Bible translated. I'm going to try the King James Version. It didn't work for me last time. Didn't work for me last time. This is 750 pages almost, and it failed last time. So, what would Jesus' opinion about Muhammad be according to his teachings? Yeah, but the thing is, Jelani, that it doesn't. It's not indexing across books. It's indexing what's in that particular book you've given it. Okay, so right now it's indexing this, the King James Bible, right? Because it's one of the four Bibles I have installed on my computer, right? So it's unless Muhammad is mentioned and there's a discussion about that topic, it's not going to know that information because it's this is being focused on just this singular topic, just on the PDF you've provided. Okay, so let me. Okay, so Athanasius. Okay, what does Athanasius say about the Trinity? Okay, what does he say about the Trinity? Athanasius' Trinitarian theology emphasizes that God does not progress; He directs. Okay, he talks about Asterius. Okay, is Athanasius Trinitarian? Let's find out. Yes, he was Trinitarian. Okay, yeah, Mo's not in the Bible, so why would this thing know about Momo? Of course not. Okay, so it's still indexing the King James Bible, so it's going to take a while. I mean, it took about 3 or 4 minutes and then gave me an error. Something went wrong. Try after some time. Yeah, that's what I got last time. Okay, I'm just going to ignore that one for now. I'm going to go back to the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible. Let me upload it again. It's going to have to re-index this book. I'm hoping. Let's go back here. I'm hoping yeah, it's remembered the book, but it hasn't remembered the content. So I think the index is wiped whenever you upload a new book. Unless you have multiple books simultaneously, then it's got multiple indexes. Okay, let's have it index this book again, and let's ask it one or two questions. Athanasius worshipped three gods, of course. Yeah, that's, ask Alonzo. Okay, did I miss any questions? What would Jesus' opinion be? Ask about the Trinity. Uh, okay, processing done. You can now chat. Okay, so, okay, what does say about Trinity? Okay, let's see what it says about the Trinity. Okay, the provided text does not say anything about the Trinity. Okay, so yeah, it doesn't talk. Remember, the word Trinity had not been invented yet. Okay, Muhammad is a non-entity, so okay, look, I will mention this. I do a lot of heavy research, okay? You've got to know how to research. You have to know what questions to ask. You have to know a lot of things. When you ask stupid questions, you get stupid answers. So, really, if you want to, you can ask about the Trinity, but you need to be specific. When you're talking with these search engines, when you're querying stuff, indexing stuff, even if you're using the software like Copernic, you have to be you have to know what you're asking. You have to know what you're querying. The more detailed, the more specific. If it's garbage in, it's garbage out. Please understand that. In the comments section, I'll see people leaving comments on videos, and they're asking the dumbest questions. And when you ask dumb questions, you get dumb answers. Okay. In fact, the question is an indication of your level of knowledge. Sometimes you need to learn to think differently about data. Right. You so okay. What does what does it say about the? My typing is really bad. You got it. Okay, so that's about the Godhead. Now, okay, what was okay? I'm gonna go to Jacob just so you know. What was Jacob's Hebrew name? What was Jacob's Hebrew name? The Hebrew name of Jacob in Israel is mentioned. Okay, what was Jacob called in Hebrew? Let's let's ask this again. Ah, God no, it's not giving me the answer I want. Okay, so let me ask it again. Is Yaakov also Jacob? Let's. Earlier I asked it a different question. Okay, Yaakov is Jacob. Now the weird thing is that when you go back to the Protestant era, you go back to a guy called Wycliffe, right? Wycliffe, for some reason, translated the name Jacob to James. Okay, the book of James, right? The biblical book of James is actually the book of Jacob. Okay, it's actually the book of Jacob. The name of that particular follower of Jesus who wrote that book is Jacob. It is not James because his original Hebrew name is Yaakov. Okay, Yaakov. So this is his original name. Oops, that's his original name, Yaakov. Right now, the problem is that Wycliffe didn't like the Jews, and he wanted to separate the Jewishness of well, he wanted to separate Christianity from the Jewishness of Jesus, the Jewishness of the apostles. He basically wanted to get rid of. I mean, even Martin Luther absolutely positively hated the Jews. As you all know, I have very little respect for Martin Luther after reading about him, learning about him. I just think Martin Luther was absolute scum. But so this unfortunately stuck. Okay, Yaakov, who was Jacob, became James, which denies the Jewishness of the apostles and of Jesus. So that was the reason behind that. So so the ChatGPT here is giving me different answers because I'm asking different questions. Okay, so the Duzo, welcome. Wasn't he the one burned? No, no, no. He died, was buried, was dug up and burned after he died. But yeah, I mean, people say he wrote the first English. He did the first English translation of the Bible, which is not true. So, Okay, let's see. Is James is German Jacobus? Yeah, exactly. So in other languages, he's Jacob. If you look in other languages, James becomes Jacob, which is really weird. Okay, so as I said, there was a whole effort. I mean, if you read some of the Protestant Reformation guys, the things they say, it's like they'll say things like, "Oh, everyone who translated the Bible before us, or everyone in the history of the church before us was wrong. Everyone except us was wrong. We're the only ones getting it right. Everyone else just was absolutely and positively mistaken, and we're right." I mean, man, you can start looking at what these guys say, and yeah, yeah, James is in German Jakobus because his name is Jacob, not James. Thanks for your research. Okay, in my secularist university class, they still talk somewhat positive about Martin Luther. Martin Luther was, as I said, Martin Luther was scum. Honestly, after reading about Martin Luther, I genuinely think Martin Luther was scum. I don't even think. Now, look, at some point I need to really dig into Martin Luther, as I said I would, but it's actually going to be quite a mission. But I don't even think Martin Luther was a Christian at the end of his life. I honestly don't think he was even Christian at the end. So, Horse, welcome. No, there was no notification. I just went live just off the cuff. I just thought, what the heck, and I came live. Okay, so should we try a different book? Let me see. So I'm gonna grab. Let's do something random. Okay, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to pull up this one. Okay, this one is called Exposing Myths About Christianity, a guide to answering 145 viral lies and legends. I actually bought this book. Well, Thaddeus bought it for me. I tried to buy it, except for some reason they didn't sell it outside the US, so Thaddeus bought it for me. Tony says, recently I talked to people on WhatsApp who thought Luther was funded by Jews before he turned anti Semitic. Luther hated Jews. The Nazis would constantly use Luther in their anti German propaganda, and they would justify their treatment of Jews on the basis of Luther's statements. Luther led to slaughter. Luther, I mean, honestly, good grief. Once you really get into the guy's history, you realize the story that you get about Luther is about as whitewashed as the story you get about Muhammad. Um, okay, what is the goal of the book? How is the book arranged to help readers? Okay, so let's see. How is the book arranged to help readers locate a topic of their choice? Let's just have a look at that. If you could expose the Gnosticism and Calvinism, that'd be amazing. I am working on Gnosticism. Yeah, Calvinism, I think Luther became something of a Gnostic towards the end. There's definitely Gnostic tendencies in his work, Calvin, and even some of the other guys. So yes, there's something there. I mean, um, yeah, it's. I mean, look, it's only once I started really digging into Luther's history, the things that he said, you start to go, this guy is off the rails. I mean, yeah. Okay, so this book tells us. Okay, so what? Okay, summarize. Okay, so let me say summarize information about, let's see, Galileo. Summarize information about Galileo. Okay, so now it's telling us what it has on Galileo in the book. Galileo was a mathematician, a natural philosopher. Natural philosophy, the term from the medieval period, meant scientist, okay, who taught Ptolemaic astronomy, later recognized the superiority of the Copernican model, Copernicus, and the Poles will tell you he was Polish, Copernicus. I, I live in Poland, so hey, I'm going to agree with them. He defended the Copernican view, which created a controversy that provoked complex political maneuvering and infighting. Galileo was condemned for heresy, for promoting the heliocentric theory, which was considered theologically untrue. I don't even know if that's even true, because when I've looked at some of the other aspects of the Galileo story, sometimes this guy glosses over certain things. He claims the book is non denominational, but yeah, I don't agree with some of his conclusions because he says things that clearly have a very strongly anti-Catholic, somewhat Protestant view, in my view. And some of the stuff he says about Galileo, there's more to the Galileo story than he covers here. Okay, he says here the Galileo affair was not a battle between science and religion, and also Galileo wasn't. The Catholic Church was funding Galileo. They had no particular. They didn't know which one was right. They wanted to know which one would be true. Galileo was insulting people. He insulted the Pope, and he said things he should not have said. So that's why they were upset with him. But anyway, so Pope John Paul II formally rehabilitated Galileo in 1992. Okay, so there's some good information. Okay, let's see. What does it say about atheism? Okay, so let's see, what does it say about atheism? Let's see. The Eastern Orthodox weren't too keen on the Protestant Reformation when they finally approached the author leaders. Yep. Problem is that will only learn from what you feed it. Well, yeah, look, I mean, dude, it's the future. Get used to it. It's coming. Okay, the text provides various insights about atheism, including atheism is currently fashionable in academia, law, media, and other fields. So this is what I wanted to show you guys. Hopefully this was helpful. Let me catch up with the comments, and then any last comments, let me know, and I'll give my sore throat a break. Let me see. Talk to people on WhatsApp. Okay, so okay, other parts of the Kabbalah consist of scriptures. Okay, the baptism. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna go to. Okay, I don't have this Bible open. Okay, let me just drop this in here. Let's see what it says. The text does not provide a direct link between baptism and ritual cleansing or ablution. However, it does mention that baptism was the distinguishing marks of Christianity from the first century. It was included in the liturgies of the earliest Christian communities. The text also discusses the idea of purgatory, which is linked to the idea of penance and the purification of the spirits of the dead. While there's no direct link between baptism and ritual cleansing, both practices aim to connect humans with God and involve purification in some form. Okay, what does it say about Islam, everyone's favorite topic? Does the AI have a denominational bias? Doubt it. I mean, look, it's responding purely. Look, this is not general GPT. This has been trained on only what is in this PDF, nothing else. It's not going to tell you how to make a breakfast cocktail. It's this is focused just on what's in the PDF. It has indexed the PDF and it's now searching through the PDF, giving you answers. Okay, so it doesn't have a comprehensive positive portrayal of Islam. It does mention the Muslims' expansion by 750. Okay, so yeah, this tool is free for everyone to use. As I said, go to OpenAI. So let me see, from $2.30, I'm at $2.70. So all of this cost me roughly, I don't know, 50 cents or whatever. So US, because I'm using it quite heavily. As I said, I've also handed out my API key to my members. So yeah, so they can also use this. But hopefully you understand now. Police sirens, yeah. I'm not. Which is celebrated on the. Someone in Poland must have clicked on the wrong link. Yeah, of course. Okay, so any questions? Any final questions? Were they Christians? Any final questions? So hopefully you found that this is useful. Okay, so that's what's happening there. You're going to need an API key. It's going to ask you for that. You get that on platform.openai.com, and you can go through whatever books you like, and you can feed it a book. Okay, I'm going to go here to Gnosticism. I'm going to bring up. Let's see if it'll read this one. How long it'll take. I have no idea how big this book is. Let's find out. This book is 399 pages. Let's see how long. This is a companion to second century heretics. Okay. When the New Testament is the hardened heart. Well, the thing is, I'd have to have that loaded. I don't have the Bible loaded right now. I've got a different book. So look, do yourself a favor, find a copy of the Bible in PDF or the New Testament, just the New Testament. Drop it in, search to your heart's content, ask it to summarize, ask it to say, name me all the places where Jesus mentions atonement. Name me where Jesus says, ask it, where does Jesus say, I am God? Or mention all the references to where Jesus. Okay, see, so it's not, it has its issues. The software has its issues. It'll fix itself. So again, Muslims, so use it to counter the polemics that come out of Islam. Have you fed it? Example of the false version of the Talmud is that. Look, Don Omar, I'll be quite blunt. I have not met a single person outside of rabbis that have spent more time reading the Talmud than me. Okay, 99.9% of everything I've seen from Christians, Muslims, even Jews on the Talmud is, excuse my French here, bullshit. Okay, and I am sick and tired of listening to it, sick and tired of seeing it, and just absolutely tired of hearing it. Okay, so the Talmud barely mentions. The Talmud is something like 12 million words. It maybe has a couple of hundred dedicated to talking about Jesus. He barely features. the Quran specifically goes out of its way to deny everything about Jesus, the resurrection, the foundations of Christianity, the everything. The Talmud barely mentions Jesus. It hardly knows him. Everyone goes, well, the Talmud says that blah blah Jesus' mother was blah 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 Pantera blah blah. Excuse me, but listening to that nonsense, that story goes back to the Romans. The Romans were saying that long before. The Jews just happened to copy that story into the Talmud. And now Christians come along who were lied to by lying liars and they spread those lies. And I am sick and tired of it. Okay? Then they talk about, well, Jesus went to Egypt and Jesus was a witch and he learned witchcraft. That story dates to 200 years before Jesus was born. Okay? So really, please do me a favor, get your head out of your ass, go study some history. Take the time. Okay? Stop being a gullible fool. All right? So, Don Omar, I don't mean to specifically target you to be insulted, but do me a favor. Just stop being a dupe. People are lying to you. As I said, please just stop. I am sick and tired of listening to bullshit from bullshitters. So, let me see. William Wonderly says, did you see the Saudi sheikh saying there needs to be reform in fiqh? I think it's propaganda. All of those statements, I fully believe it's propaganda. They see the West as weak right now, and they're going to say things to be conciliatory, but they are just looking for a weak point to bury the knife. I don't believe that they are genuine about this. So let me see. So Don Omar, I hope you've learned something. All right. And look, if you guys don't like what I have to say about Martin Luther, about the Talmud, I'm not saying the Talmud is holy writ. I am not defending the Talmud as holy writ. All I'm saying is, if you're a Christian, stop lying about it. And if you're a liar, I'm going to call you one bluntly. Okay? It was a senior brother. That guy needs to get his head out of his ass. Okay? He was lied to, and he's lying to you. Whether he does it intentionally or not, unfortunately, he's wrong. Okay? I'm not saying the Talmud goes all coochie coochie coo about Jesus. No, it doesn't. Obviously, their theology doesn't allow for that. Okay? But we respect it for what it is. We don't lie about it. That's the difference. Okay? I don't lie about it. I try to be factual about it. So, yeah. So, okay. So, yeah, like Rebecca was three. So think about the Islamic polemics. Okay? All of Jesus never says he was God. Well, you can now query the New Testament, drop a copy of the New Testament in there, and say to it, hey, look, how do we, what are these references where Jesus mentions being God, etc.? It should pull from the footnotes or drop in an article, drop in some various texts on the subjects. All right. And, okay, so drop in some various things about the subject. And let's see. I'm just going to drop in another random file, the childhood of Jesus, the infancy gospel of Thomas. Okay. So, yeah. So please do this, drop it in, have a search through it, see what you can learn by querying this thing. The better your questions, the better your answers. All right. And it remembers the context of what you've asked before and it can build upon that. Katie, native sister, hey, I'll definitely be using it to help me with my own research. You're welcome. Yeah, look, it'll do anything. I mean, I was playing with technical manuals for machines in a warehouse. I was playing with, okay, processing done. Let me see. So the apocryphal infancy gospel of Thomas. Okay, fascinating. So it gives you a summary. Okay, what is the narrative outline and plot of the infancy gospel of Thomas? Let's look at this example. And there we go. Okay. Um, do scholars say this is a genuine account of Jesus? It is not considered a genuine account of Jesus by scholars. The gospel consists of a number of miracle accounts. I mean, look. Also, don't forget, garbage in, garbage out. If you drop it in, if you drop a garbage paper into it that has bias, it's just going to tell you what's in the page. Okay, all it's going to do is tell you what's in the book. Okay, I've got to go for now. We'll definitely watch the entire live stream soon. Thanks. Let me see. Uh, Let me see. Okay. Okay, have I missed anything? Oh God, Don Omar, he describes punishment in the afterlife. Seriously, you need to. Okay, here's the thing. Christians, let's look at it like this, Don Omar. Christians were murdering Jews. Okay, what kind of nice things are the Jews supposed to say when Christians are killing them, burning their houses, destroying their books? Okay, taking their possessions, dispossessing them. Right? What kind of nice things do you say to people that are destroying your lives? One, you don't say nice things. Okay, Christians were murderous bastards at times. Okay, they committed sin. They did things that were not good. The only recourse sometimes that the Jews had was to talk poop about Christians in the Talmud. Secondly, if we go into my one day, I'll have to do the Talmud, and you start looking at what they're talking about Balaam. Okay, the prophet Balaam. That's a whole different story. All of these things, you've been reading people who really should know better. Okay, many, like there's this one guy, Walter Veith. That guy lies through his teeth. The man is an outright liar. Whether he's knowingly doing so or not, the man is an outright liar. He deceives people for a living, right? So understand that story is about Balaam. It's a much more involved story. Also, I'd say writing little things because they were being killed for not believing in Jesus. Christians should not have been doing that. And if they want to say nasty things on paper, I guess it's okay. It's better than them murdering you back, right? So there's a lot more to the story, but we'll leave it at that. Yes, that's a good question, Tony. How are they supposed to convert Jews? And what did Martin Luther recommend? Killing them, right? Burning their houses down, destroying their property. And that's exactly what happened. So yeah, I mean there were mistakes made. There were things that Christians did wrong, and we have to own up to that. We have to own up to that. And this one-sided propaganda. Understand? Again, I mean, you can point out errors on whatever side of the argument, but let's try to be factual about it. Right? Right, let me see. Okay, guys, so I think that's it from me. Where Christians were killing Jews as directed by, for the sake of, because Christians were just sinful. They were wrong. Okay? There were mistakes made, and a lot of it was political, right? But yeah, I mean, Martin Luther was a bloodthirsty bastard, right? I wouldn't call him Christian. Maybe he started out as one, but would I call him one today? No. What time is it in Poland? It is now 10 minutes to 10 p.m. Okay, I should call it a day here. I've said plenty, but Sheikh Berardi, 10 to 10 p.m. So yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we can talk about those topics another day. Tomorrow night I'll be live with Chris from Speaker's Corner. I meant to go on for a few minutes. My throat is stuffed. I'll be on live with Chris from Speaker's Corner tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. my time, and then I'll be on with Sam Shamoon on Thursday at 8 p.m. So my throat is stuffed, so I need to get better for that. So I'll be on Sam Shamoon's channel on Thursday, 8 p.m. my time. So everyone, take care. God bless. Yeah, and we'll see you guys soon. So hopefully this was helpful. Take care, guys. Till next time.